Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Nahmaduhu wa nusalli ala rasulihil kareem. Amma ba'd. Fa'awzu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wahlul 'uqdatam min lisani yafqahu qawli. Rabbi zidni ilma. Allahumma faqihna fid din. Ameen ya rabbil alameen. Sorry if anybody joined in and I had to stop the class because the lawnmower, the person was mowing the lawn outside, and the sound was so loud that it was going into transmission. So that's why I had to stop the class and then restart it. Okay, so let's just take a quick recap of what we discussed last week. We completed, mashallah, chapter, the para 20, the 20th para. And alhamdulillah, we've reached the 21st para. And let's just recap what we discussed in the last verses. We talked about Hazrat Shu'aib being sent to Madian. And then we also talked about the Ad and Samud, the nation of Ad and Samud. And how they were brought to destruction just because they did disbelieve in Islam. And then Qarun, Pharaoh and Haman were mentioned, and that Musa brought many ayats, but they belied them. And then different punishments were mentioned, that different nations were struck by different types of punishments. And then Allah, in the end, mentioning the punishments, Allah mentions that Allah did not wrong them, did not do zulm upon them, but they were the ones who did zulm on themselves. Then Allah gives the example of Ankabut, the spider's web, the Beit Ankabut, in fact, the house of the spider. As I told you, those who incite others than Allah, who believe in others than Allah, their belief and their, all their efforts are like the spider's web that will go to waste with no benefit at all. And then Allah says that different examples are narrated for mankind, and only those people will pay heed who have ilm, those people who want to understand, whereas the same people will listen to different examples but then don't pay heed, they don't care. And then Allah says that the biggest sign that there is the creation of the heavens and the earth. And then the 21st para starts in which the first verse was that the Prophet was ordered to recite what is being revealed towards him and establish Salah. And why establish Salah? Because Salah stops one from outrageous deeds and munkar, and then zikr, and then remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Whatever you do, there is verbal zikr, and then there's one that you always do in your mind, in other words taqwa, always remembering Allah, and whatever you do, Allah knows the work that you are performing. We will carry on from verse number 46. Auzubillahi minash shaitanir rajeem. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Wala, and do not, tujadilu, you all dispute, ahl al-kitabi, ahl people, al-kitab, of the book. In other words, ahl al-kitab are who? The Jews and the Christians. Illa, except, billati, by which, hiya, it, ahsan, best or most beautiful. In other words, what is being taught here? Religious tolerance. And religious tolerance required where the most? When you are in a debate with Ahl Kitab. Now, remember the Makkans, although it's a Makki surah, remember the Makkans used to say that, okay, he either goes to a Christian slave and recites and learns the Quran from there. But the Makkans also used to visit Medina, so they had interaction with the Jews, the surrounding Jews. So they were familiar with the Ahl Kitab. And then it is being said that if anybody comes to debate with you from Ahl Kitab, then debate beautifully. Now, in the day and age that we live in, this is very important, religious tolerance. Every time somebody asks me, what do you teach in your class? I go, I teach Islamiyat. Yeah, that's a skill. Okay? But the thing that I emphasize on most is that religious tolerance. Intersect religious tolerance also, and then with other faith, interfaith, so religious tolerance is also required. Why? Because we lack it. As a nation, we lack it. Why? Because if we see in our homes, brothers and sisters, they differ upon one thing and then they're all out in a full-fledged argument, and then everybody's in a mood. Whereas I have a class, whenever I have a class, I have Ahl Tashii in it, I have Sunnat wal Jamaat, and I'm right in the beginning, when they come to me in O1, right in the beginning, I make them comfortable with each other. And I make them respect each other's views, no matter what they are. It's not necessary that you agree with what they are thinking, but you don't have to oppose every single thing that they are saying. At least listen to what they're saying, and especially when it is a belief. Remember, just by you cursing or cussing or, getting aggressive in your argument, it's not going to make them go away from their belief. So there's no use there, trying to argue that. And if you do come into a debate, interfaith debate, intersect debate, then what? Do it in an essent way. Do it in an essent way, in a beautiful way. Illa, except allazina, those who zalamu, they did wrong, injustice, minhum, from them. You will talk beautifully, essent, but except if they, what do? They zalamu, they do zulam. If they have, suppose, they start picking a fight, or they start being rude and rash, then it's not required that you be essent with them. You have the choice to then now walk away. Because remember, there's another verse that we discussed previously in which whenever a jahil talks to you, then just turn away and say Islama and take your excuse. The best thing is to do is take your excuse. And especially in schools, in workplaces, you will see some people, okay, they have ground-based knowledge. And some people with not even the basics of knowledge will be the biggest debaters when it comes to religion. So at that time, when you know that they don't have the knowledge, just leave it there. So what is it teaching us? It's teaching us religious tolerance, and whenever we're going to talk, we will talk politely. Sometimes zalamu is not just the attitude, sometimes the content or what they're talking about. Maybe they're talking very sweetly with you, but what they've just said is so irrational and something that you cannot be accepted at all. So then what will you do? You'll get up and leave. Okay, and then it's not, Allah is not just teaching debate. He's also teaching us what to say when we're going to talk to Ahl Kitab. وَقُولُوا, and you all say, آمَنَّا, we believe, بِالَّذِي, with which, unzila, it was revealed, sent down, ilayna, to us. In other words, we believe in the Quran, what was sent to us. وَأُنزِلَ, and was revealed or sent down, ilaykum, to you all. And what was sent to them? The Torah and the Injil. Now, have you seen, it's not mentioning that what is with you. It is what has been mentioned, what was revealed to you. Because as we know, the present day books that they have been changed and altered. Even if they don't believe that they've been religiously altered, everybody will agree that every single year there's a new edition. There's a new version, there's a new edition. Changes of language. So what do we agree to? That we believe in every divine revelation that came down to Ahl Kitab. To Musa, to Isa. Whatever was revealed to them, we agree with that. وَأُنزِلَ إِلَيْكُمْ وَإِلَهُنَا, and our ilah, our God, our deity, وَإِلَهُكُمْ, and your ilah, your God, your deity, wahidun, is one. In other words, what are you going to talk on? You're going to talk on common grounds. You don't have to say, oh no, you consume alcohol and we don't, so like we're good and you're bad. No. What is something common? Every time that I've ever had a debate or I've talked to a Christian or something like I always, every Easter, every Christmas with my home help, I always, our sanitary worker, I always talk to him about, okay, what do we believe about Isa? And I tell him that we believe that he was taken away before crucifixion. In other words, Allah did not put him to that trial, and they believe differently. So talk about things that are common. If I start saying, no, what you're believing is so wrong, do you think he's ever going to want to talk to me again? No. So there are some common things, like Roman Catholics. They are very religious, and like adultery, even today, they consider as a very grave sin. And if you're talking to a Roman Catholic and a very staunch and an old Roman Catholic, when you talk about adultery, they will literally shun all of England. They will say, like, what's happening around here is totally unacceptable. So do you see, there are always common things between divine religions, that is. وَإِلَهُكُمْ وَاحِدٌ, that our God and your God is one. وَنَحْنُ, and we, lahu, to or for him, lahu, for him, Muslimun, are the ones who submit. In other words, the God that you are worshipping and the God that we worship is one. So we submit ourselves, we give ourselves to him. وَكَذَلِكَ أَنزَلْنَا إِلَيْكَ الْكِتَابَ, and thus likewise we reveal to you, O Muhammad, al-kitab, the book. فَالَّذِينَ, so those who آتَيْنَاهُمْ, we gave them al-kitab, the book, يُؤْمِنُونَ بِهِ, they believe in it or with it. Now, the Prophet is being told that we've given you the book, and the people who were given the book, who were the people who were given the book? The Ahl Kitab. They also believe in it. Now, I don't know if you know that Salman Farsi, have you heard of his name? The Persian, he was a Zoroastrian, and then he shifted from Zoroastrianism to Christianity, and then he went from Pope to Pope, I don't know what's called, priest to priest, and he spent, I think, around about near to 20 to 30 years in the search of the true religion. And then the last priest that he was with, he was the one who said, okay, go to the Hijaz, go down to Saudi Arabia, and go to this place. This is the coming of the last prophet. He will be the most guided after me. And then he finally reaches the Prophet ﷺ and accepts Islam. And so those people who were good Christians, who followed their book, why is it necessary that it should be mentioned that they follow their book? Because the coming of the last prophet was clearly mentioned in their books. It was clearly mentioned in their books. They believe with it. وَمِنْ هَؤُلَاءِ مَنْ يُؤْمِنُ بِهِ وَمِنْ, and from هَؤُلَاءِ, these people. Who are these people? If it's a Makki surah, who would these people be? The Makkans, yes. Man, who يُؤْمِنُ بِهِ, he believes in it. In other words, they are from amongst these people, there are also people who believe in it. Although at that stage, very few, as I told you, at migration to Medina, there was around about 90 men that were migrating to Medina only. So even a few, but there are people who believe, like when they're coming back for the conquest of Makkah, when they're coming back for the farewell pilgrimage, they have more than 10,000 people on the farewell pilgrimage. So how many went? 90 went, and so many came back. In other words, Allah is giving the Prophet, He's reassuring him that people who have previously believed in the book, they believe in it also. And people from amongst these people, the Arabs, although most of them are not believing, there are still people who believe. وَمَا يَجْهَدُ, and not refuses or rejects بِآيَاتِنَا, our ayat, illa, except al-kafirun, those who deny, disbelieve, or hide the truth. Now, who are the people who reject? Who hide the truth. The Makkans, they could also tell that he's right, because there were so many miracles happening. I mean, him not knowing how to read and write, and then so beautiful Arabic, and remember the Makki surahs are short and rhythmic and beautiful, and they were all poets, so they knew that this is something miraculous, or something that he could not do on his own. Even the Ahl Kitab that refused, the Jews, it is mentioned that when the Prophet finally went to Medina, the Jews are said to have recognized him, as they recognized their own sons. But what did they do? No. And why are they? In other words, why do they stop? Just because of so that their prestige is not, does not come down. The izzat does not come down. وَمَا كُنْتَ, we are on verse number 48. وَمَا كُنْتَ, do you have the Nubara? وَمَا كُنْتَ, and not you were, تَتْلُو, you read, مِنْ قَبْلِهِ, from before it, from kitab, in any book. In other words, before the revelation of this Quran, before the coming of the Quran, you didn't read any sort of book, anything. You didn't know how to read at all. Wala, and no, tuhattuhu, you write it. In other words, you could not read or write anything. So what could be a more bigger example than this, a miracle than this, that this is miraculous, That so eloquent speech is coming from him. He's not reading it, he's not writing it, he's not being dictated by somebody. The angel comes down and instantly he starts reciting it. What can be a bigger miracle than this? وَلَا تُخُطُّهُ, and you did not write it بِيَمِينِكَ, with your right hand. إِذَنْ, then لَرْتَابَ, surely he doubted al-mubtilun, those who reject the truth or follow falsehood. Those who are rejecting the truth just for the sake of rejecting, or those who follow falsehood, and I mean they're enjoying so much in following their idols and their concocted beliefs that they don't want to go to the truth. They are the ones who reject it. They are in doubt. Whereas such a miraculous speech coming out of his mouth, that was enough miracle for them to believe. But why did they not believe? Just because of their stubbornness. Bal, rather, huwa, it, in other words, it could be the Quran or the Prophet ﷺ. Ayatun, ayat, signs, bayinat, are explicit, clear, manifest, fi suduril lazina, in the chest or breast of those who utu, they were given al-ilm, the knowledge. Now these are the ayat of the Quran. Or if we're talking about the Prophet's prophecy is a clear sign. In other words, he was unstained. He was living, what society was he living in? In that society of cruel and adultery and drinking, he was unstained. Never told a lie. They all bore witness to him being the most perfect person in Makkah. They used to entrust him with their possessions, that okay, look after this because we trust you. Even before his prophecy, he was nominated. Well, not nominated. In other words, when he walked into the Kaaba, he was the one who placed the stone after overcoming their argument that was going on. So he himself was a clear sign for these people that the prophecy is clear, and the Quran itself is clear. The signs are clear, the verses are clear, that it's easy to understand. And these clear verses, fi suduril lazina utul ilm, in those people who have been given ilm, it's in their hearts as well. In other words, they were rejecting the verses of the Quran, but those people who were given ilm, and remember I told you, ilm are those people who want ilm. Ilm, you just have to go through a page, read through it, understand it, you've got ilm. But the ilm that we are talking about here, the one that has come to the heart of those people who really want it, who are desperate for it. In their hearts, the signs and the ayat and the being of the Prophet ﷺ as him being the messenger, the last messenger, that is clearly, significantly in their hearts. Because Quran and prophecy was something that you accept with your heart. No, you can't just read by the Quran and read from the Quran. Now you tell me, okay, if I read through this 10 pages, I had an aim every single time, I'm going to go through 10 pages. That would be just reading it. But what is it? Why do I spend so much time on one verse? Because I wanted to get into your heart. And if you leave this room after 1 hour and what I've taught you, even if it's just one verse or two verses, if it hasn't struck your heart, then I failed. Because Quran is something that was revealed to the heart, that enters to the heart, and when it enters the heart, that is the true ilm that Allah wants you to get. The other things, practical things, they come slowly with the passage of time. But the thing should touch your heart. It should enter your heart and you should feel the Quran. That's why I said, I didn't read the Quran, I experienced the Quran. When some people ask me, I'll tell you how long I've been studying. I go, I don't study it, I experience it. Studying the Quran is an experience. You feel every single verse in your heart. It sticks there. It leaves an impression on your heart. وَمَا يَجْهَدُ, and not rejects or refuses بِآيَاتِنَا, with our ayat, illa, except الظَّالِمُونَ, those who are unjust, who do wrong. Zalim, the ones who do not give the due right. It is their own nafs's due right to be guided. It is their nafs and their heart's right to be given the Quran. But when your mind is objecting, you're not letting it get to the heart, then who is doing zulm? They're doing zulm on their own selves. And then Allah says that the only people who reject this Quran, whose heart it does not reach to, are those who are doing zulm on their own selves. وَقَالُوا, and they said, who are saying? Ahl Kitab. Lola, why not? Unzila, not just Ahl Kitab, but it could be Ahl Kitab and the Makkans at that time. Lola, why not? Unzila alayhi, it was sent upon him. Ayatun, ayat, signs, min rabbihi, from his Rabb, sustainer. Now, if it was Ahl Kitab, why would they be saying it? Because Musa, Isa, they had so many signs. Saleh had a camel. So why isn't something that I can see, tangible, I can see, I can touch? Why isn't something like that coming? And the Arabs, they were just making, excuses upon excuses. They had not read it in any book that so many signs had come to the previous prophets. But they were just saying, okay, if you're so true, then why doesn't, because they were measuring prophecy and ilm and knowledge and hadayat with materialistic things. Why don't you have an orchard in which you have, you have produce always available? Why don't you have a treasure so huge that, you're so rich? Or why doesn't he have 10 sons, as the chiefs would be proud to boast about? So they would measure his prophecy under these standards. So that's why they would object to every single thing. Qul innama, you say only indeed al-ayatu, the ayat, the signs, in the Allahi, are with Allah. All the miracles, all the signs that there could be are with Allah. For Allah, it's not difficult. It's not difficult to send a sign. Even in our daily lives, we see different signs in front of us, that in which we see the power of Allah. Now, this season, it makes you, those people who never remember Allah throughout their whole life, when they see flash floods and they see buildings fall, these are all signs of Allah. That look, one day you're totally fine, and the next day, there you go, the whole house. I don't know, where was it, India? In which 35 shops, they all collapsed into the river because of these flash flooding. People, you're walking normally and then you're electrocuted because of, some wire or something. There are so many people walking in the same water, one is struck. Lightning. So there are so many signs that we see in our daily life, our body. We don't need some huge miracle to make us believe in Allah. But this is what is true and this is what is not. Wa innama, and only indeed, ana, I, nazirun, am a warner, mubin, one clear. Remember, once the sign would come to a nation, what would happen to it later? They would be, when they would reject the sign, what would happen? They would be destroyed. So, it was this, the Prophet's nation was never supposed to be destroyed, because this nation, the Prophet's followers, had to go all the way up till Qiyamah. So the nation, we can't all of a sudden just, destroy the whole of Makkah. Could we? Could Allah? Because Makkah was a place that people had to return to. So Allah had to pick out the people who were going to be punished and leave the remaining as they were. Because the same people who objected the Prophet ﷺ in the early days of Islam were the same people who, in the later days of Islam, also fought for the sake of Islam. So that's why Allah, picked out the people who were to be destroyed, not the whole nation and not the whole of Makkah. And remember, because the previous prophets, they were warners of a lesser azab. The Prophet is the final prophet. He is going to be warning of the bigger azab. And what is that? That will be the coming of Qiyamah. Do you understand? So they warned, small, localized punishment. So he has to warn about the last final destruction on earth. So it had to last forever. So there couldn't be that everybody would be ruined. Okay, awalam, did and not, yakfihim, or is it not sufficient for them? Anna, indeed that we, anzalna, we sent down alayka, upon you, al-kitab, the book, yutla, it is recited in sequence, alayhim, upon them. Now Allah is asking, isn't it significant enough for them, or isn't it sufficient enough for them that we have sent a book upon you and you are reciting it to them? Again, what was mentioned before, you've never read and you've never written anything with your right hand. But such a big example. Now, so many times you come across a person who has never gone to school. And so many times, sometimes you say something in Urdu, they can't understand it. Sometimes you say something in Punjabi, they still can't understand it. Then you think to go a little bit, how can I make it more simpler for this person to understand? Where they're usually talking Punjabi or, but you have to come to a very low level for the simplest conversation with somebody who is unlettered. So imagine a person who's never gone to school, never written or write, and so eloquent speech, so beautiful Arabic, one word meaning like 20 things, so many rhyming words. The Makkans were given the challenge that, okay, if you think this is not from Allah, then go and bring فَأْتُوا بِسُورَةٍ مِّن مِثْلِهِ, then bring a surah like it. They tried and they said, they wrote a surah, look at this elephant, and what is this elephant, how is this elephant, and everybody started laughing at, what have you done? This is so funny about what you've done. And what verse was set up? Surah Kawthar. The most smallest verse was given. Okay, challenge, 3 verses, 3 lines. Bring something like it. They couldn't. So isn't this enough for them that it is being recited by the Prophet? Inna fi dhalika, indeed in that. La rahmatan wa dhikra, surely a rahmah, a mercy, wa dhikra, and a reminder, li qawmin, for a nation, people, yu'minun, they believe. Now for those who rejected, it was not enough for them, him reciting this Quran. But for the people who believe, it was rahmat for them. Their lives were being enlightened. In other words, they could feel the mercy of Allah, and zikra, and a remembrance and a reminder. Remember, the most downtrodden in society, the slaves of the society, were given so much respect and so much hope. And remember, I was reading a Seerah book the other day. I've gone through the Seerah so many times. Every time you read it, you remember different things from the Seerah. And it was about Bilal, that when Fatah Makkah, at the conquest of Makkah, imagine his master, when he punished him so much, and when he came back and then he gave the azan standing on the Kaaba. For those people who still had ill feelings in their heart, for them it was like, we had to live till this day, and that we see Bilal, who was a slave, standing on top of the Kaaba. So do you see that how it gave the Muslims mercy? It was rahmat for them, it was a blessing for them. And zikr and remembrance, they were given the remembrance, reminder of first of all, who they are, what they're supposed to do, and where are they going to go. Qul, you say, kafa, he sufficed, billahi, definitely Allah, baini, between me, wa bainakum, and between you all, shahida, a witness. Kafa, in other words, Allah is enough. Either to suffice, like a sufficient, Allah is enough for me. Billahi, between me, baini, and between you, between Allah, baini, between me, wa bainakum, and between you, shahida, in other words, a witness. Allah is enough, a witness between me and you all, about how much I'm trying to preach, and how much do you reject, and why are you rejecting, and how, remember, ma'am, when it was that the Prophet is there, that he would die in the suffering that these people are not believing. So Allah is a witness to everything, that how He is desperate that these people believe, and these people are so stubborn that even seeing and even recognizing and then still negating. So Allah is the witness of all this scenario. And then again, remember the beginning of verses are when you debate between somebody, Ahl Kitab. But remember, you're not always debating with Ahl Kitab. Sometimes you're debating with Muslims also. And when it comes to religion, you should debate in the most beautiful way. And then when you've tried your best and you're not getting to them, you won't, be stubborn. You won't get aggressive, because what does that do? That pushes people away from your religion. Never ever make that mistake. That yes, sometimes people say the most terrible, things to you on your face against the religion, but that should not be a trigger for you to go low. In other words, for you to start cursing or cussing or whatever. Don't ever do that. What should you do? Always, and then at the end, if you can't prove your point, you can't prove your logic, then remember, Allah is enough. as a witness between your conversation, that's enough. Just remember that Allah saw how dedicated you were trying to, prove your stance, and how, stubborn or, insensitive the other person was towards what you were saying. So Allah is there. Ya'lamu, He knows ma fi samawati wal earth. He knows what is in the heavens and the earth. Walladhina amanu, and those who they believed, bil batil, in the batil. Those people who believe in the batil, in wrong. What is wrong in the sense of the Makkans? What would it be? It would be the idols and all of those, the certain superstitions and so on. وَكَفَرُوا بِاللَّهِ, and they disbelieved with Allah or in Allah. Ulaika, those whom they al-khasirun, those are the ones who are the losers. So if you have to step back in your debate, step back in your preaching, step back in anything, then remember, no loss. If they are negating Allah, if they are negating the belief, if they are negating your preaching, remember, it doesn't have to be a non-Muslim. It could be a Muslim. It could be one of your own brothers or sisters or aunts, uncles, or somebody. You even sometimes your husband, sometimes your wife, you never know. Then remember, those people who disbelieve in Allah, they are the losers. Ultimately, you may have lost this argument, this debate, but ultimate losers are the ones who disbelieve in Allah. وَيَسْتَعْجِلُونَكَ بِالْعَذَابِ, and they seek you to hasten bil-adhab, the punishment. Now remember, we always said, the Makkans, when they would lose, when they would come up with no logic and the debate would go so on, and because they couldn't, compete with something authentic, what would they say? Okay, bring on the azab. Okay, if you're so right, then why doesn't the azab come on? And you will see people even today using the same thing, that okay, if the Muslims are so, good and, they're the chosen people right now, then why are the Palestinians suffering like this? Then why is this other group? Or why are they so, sometimes they'll say, why are they so corrupt also? Huh? So, but remember, and sometimes you'll see people saying, okay, if you're so good, then why doesn't azab come upon us? Why can't you see that you'll have influencers, and they're inspiring people, and people say, okay, if they're so bad, then why doesn't something happen to them? Oh, Allah, remember, Satan is still alive. Satan was given respite. He was the ultimate disobeyer, right? He's the first one. But if he's living up till Qiyamah, then they're also getting their time. But then so losers, when they're losing the debate, they'll say, okay, bring on the azab. وَلَوْلَا, and if not, أَجَلٌ مُسَمَّى, a fixed time, or one fixed appointed time, لَجَاءَهُمُ الْعَذَابُ, surely it would have come to them, al-azab. If there was not an appointed time, what was the appointed time? If we're talking about the Makkans, their appointed time was Badr. That was their appointed time. And if we're extending it further, then the appointed time could be Qiyamah. Because even today, if somebody says, oh, bring on the azab, then you're like, don't worry. Azab, the punishment, the appointed time will come, and it will come on everybody. At that time, the pious people, the religious people, they'll all be sucked into the destruction of Qiyamah. That's why people say, oh, hope we die before the destruction of Qiyamah, the ultimate destruction comes. وَلَا يَأْتِيَنَّهُمْ بَغْدَةً, and surely it will definitely come to them, بَغْدَةً, suddenly. Even if it was Badr, remember they were 1,000 competing, just 313, and you can never expect that such a small band of Muslims could, create 75 Makkans were killed, right? 75 taken captive. So nobody could expect that this could happen. So when the azab does come, if it's in the face that is coming something in this world, or the hereafter, the Qiyamah, then it will come all of a sudden, Baghdatan, wahum la yash'urun, and they will not perceive anything that comes suddenly. For a split second, you can't understand what's happening. Anything, even when you're driving the car, and you have to brake, you push on the brakes. For a split second, you go, I don't know what happens to your mind. It's just switched off for a bit. You can't comprehend what's going to happen. Like I remember the earthquake of 2005. It was like clear destruction, and for a split second, when I woke up, for a split second, it's like everything was just gone. my mind is just shut off, and then all of a sudden, then you get, I think it's the adrenaline pump, and then all of a sudden you get the boost back. But any destruction that comes, nobody can assess it. Nobody knows what to do. وَهُمْ لَا يَشْعُرُونَ. They can't even perceive what is happening. You can't even understand what is happening. Recently, just like we're living in a posh area, strong homes, and one of our neighbors, because of the rains. Now you wouldn't think that something, houses like this, water would fall into all of their home. I think there was construction work going on the roof, and the day it rained so much. Where the construction was taking place, from there, all of the water came into their, it was a bungalow, it was one floored house. Through their electricity holes, water was coming, and the UPS was about to burst. They could hear it, like it's about to boil up because of water. And imagine, and I found out yesterday, so I went to go and stand with her just for a couple of minutes to console her. And literally, that woman is a very composed woman. Literally, she was like, traumatized so badly. When anything happens instantly, you can't even understand. Now I noticed a little girl, the baby of the house, and when I looked at her, she had a sad face. So I went low, I went down to her, and I asked her, how are you? And in our society, it's a tendency that we always focus on the people, the elders, and how much trauma they are going through, that we overlook the trauma that a 2-year-old or a three-year-old may be suffering. So I just talked to her a bit. Oh, you're going to be fine. Everything's fine. Are you tired? And would you believe that girl? She went on and on and on and told me every single thing. This happened, and all the trauma that she had inside, like that my nana, that my nani, they all started crying. That my mama started crying. That I started crying, and it was And I was sort of, cute. Like, oh my God, she had nobody to tell, like, that she was also traumatized by what had just happened in the house. And all of a sudden, she's all expressing it to me. When something happens, people cannot understand what it is. You cannot perceive what has just gone on with you. And even though you even have the time, like I remember after the earthquake, when I finally did reach back home to Azad Kashmir, everybody asked me, what happened? And I would look at them. I mean, all of the survival tactics that we did in the 2 days that we were there. When the people said, what happened? I would look at them and I would say, Allah ne bachaya. That was the only thing that would come out of my mouth, was that Allah saved me. Don't ask me what happened. I don't even know what happened. How miraculously, from a falling house, you managed to get out, whereas many die in the process. I mean, even processing that was traumatic enough. That how come, why were we saved and so many not saved? Young kids not saved. I mean, it's such a trauma that whenever anything that happens instantly, the azab, the punishment, the torment that comes instantly, you can never perceive it. You can never understand it. Years pass by and you still can't understand that what actually was that trauma that we went through. Yes, so them saying bring it on, it's just lip service. They're just saying it with their mouth. If it does come on, they will then beg for Allah to save them. يَسْتَعْجِلُونَكَ بِالْعَذَابِ. They seek to hasten you bil-azab, with the punishment. وَإِنَّا, and indeed, Jahannama, hell, la muhitatun, surely one that encompasses bil-kafirin. In other words, they're asking for the azab from you to bring it on quickly. Tell them, don't worry, Jahannam is waiting for you. It will encompass you. You want to be stubborn, you want to compete, then don't worry. It's there to catch all of the disbelievers. Yawma, on that day, yaghshahumul adhab. It will cover them, azab, min fawqihim, from above them, wa min tahti arjulihim, and from underneath their feet. On that day, the azab that they keep on continuously saying, bring it on, bring it on, bring it on. What will it do? It will come to them from the above and from their feet. Why is this mentioned? Whenever there's something, traumatic about to happen, we run. We run from that. Or we try to take shelter. These are the two things that we always do. Try to shelter ourselves from something coming, or try to run from it. And the two ways that we try to protect ourselves, those are the two ways that azab will be surrounding us. وَيَقُولُ, and he will say, ذُوقُوا, you taste, ma, whatever, kuntum, you all were, ta'malun, you all did. Now taste what you used to do. I forget to change the side. Acha. Now what will Allah say? Allah says that now taste, the brunt of what you used to do. In other words, what did they used to do? The first thing was to belie Allah. What can be more worse than rejecting Allah, rejecting His, being disobedient to Him? Ya ibadi, O my servants, allazina, those who amanu, they believed. See the beautiful way in which Allah is calling His people. Ya ibadi, O my servants, mine. Imagine Allah saying, you are mine, only yours, you are mine. Allazina, those who amanu, they believed. Inna, indeed, ardi, my earth, wasi'atun, is vast, spacious. Fa'iyaya, so only me, fa'budun, then you worship me. Now, remember this is a Makki surah, and the Makkans were being punished, and what was it? Okay, migrate. And what is one thing that stops a person from migrating is how will we live, or how can we go there? Even Abyssinia, okay, some Muslims did go to Abyssinia, but they were given protection, but they were not allowed to preach their religion. I mean, they couldn't start converting the state religion, people who belong to the state religion, they couldn't convert them to Islam, right? So the Prophet could not go to Abyssinia, because the Prophet's work was to preach. He was to preach to all mankind. And yes, Abyssinians did give, the Najashi did give them a safe place. They were allowed to practice their own religion. They were not allowed to convert people. So he had to go somewhere else. Now Allah is saying that you're going through so much turmoil. They are, persecuting you so much. They quarrel with you. They're asking for miracles, and they're punishing you. So, my people, don't forget that my earth is vast. There's a huge place. This was an indication that, okay, when Allah is saying, okay, my land is vast, that means I can go out. Don't have to just stay in Makkah. Because remember, whenever there was a prophet or a messenger sent to his place, he was not allowed to leave the place until Allah allowed him to. Remember, he had to, Hazrat Yunus, he left his nation before Allah granted him permission to leave. And then what? And then, he was taken and consumed by the whale. And then it is said that the nation, when they found out that he's leaving, and because of history, they knew that now punishment is going to come, they spent 3 days in doing tawbah only. And then that nation was saved. So when Allah is telling them that, okay, my land is vast, spacious, what is this indicating? Okay, can go out. It's not going to happen what happened to the previous nations. فَإِيَّايَ, so only worship me. Now, at that time it was, migration from Makkah to Medina. Even today, for the sake of Allah, sometimes you have to make decisions to migrate. Now, migrate, what do we mean by migrate? It's not the big migration. We're talking about to move yourself from this position to this position. If I give you a small, simple, very small example, like you're in a shopping mall. And it's time to pray. Now, for the sake of Allah, okay, yeah, you want to get home quickly, but it's time to pray. For the sake of Allah, can't you move yourself from that shop to the prayer room? Alhamdulillah, in Pakistan, I think all malls, big malls, have some sort of prayer room. Well, if you're in the West, then if you don't have a prayer, of course they don't have prayer rooms in the mall, but then you have your parking lot. I mean, remember to move out of, migrate from one position to another. Sometimes your job is such that it's making you, disobey Allah. Then remember, if you have to leave the job, then leave it. I remember there was one of my colleagues who used to work for Standard Chartered. She was an accountant in Islamabad when we were studying. And she literally left her job for so many years. Why? Because they deal in interest. And then she said that after I've done my course, I will go to some Islamic banking and work in that. And because I said, I go, maybe it doesn't. She goes, no, I'm working in the bank. I know what they do. I went, okay. I was trying to say that maybe you don't have to change your job. I was trying to be, cool. And she goes, no, I work there. I know what they do. I went, okay. Mother was like, obviously it's her profession. She must know how it works and what they do. So like sometimes your workplace, sometimes your school, sometimes your university, sometimes your friends. Sometimes your friends are bringing you down. They are the cause of the biggest disobedience. So if you have to migrate, maybe, what could be more bigger than migrating from Makkah to Medina and losing your family and your birthplace? If you just have to drop a few friends for the sake of Allah because they're bringing you down, do it for the sake of Allah. Okay. فَإِيَّايَ, so only worship me. What would be the person of your migration or you're leaving anything for the sake of Allah? It would be so that you worship only Allah. When we start, when other people become more important to us than Allah's orders, then we are indirectly we brought that person as an idol between you and Allah. That person it's not necessary. I've told you this so many times. It's not necessary that you have a standing statued idol in your life. We have different forms of idols. Everybody recognizes their own idol.
Our career is our idol. Sometimes we stop us with so many things.
I remember when I used to study and then teach in Al Huda International, I used to get so tired. And then when I used to lay down on the bed, I used to be so tired. I don't know why, because teaching the Quran and studying it used to be very heavy on, used to get very exhausted. And then I used to think, laying down, that but I could have got exhausted in the town, going shopping as well. So isn't it better that I'm getting exhausted for the sake of Allah and for preaching His religion? So there are different things, It's better to be, safe. Why? Because this is everlasting. Your colleagues, your friends, one day in your life, maybe when they get married, they are going to ditch you anyway. Once you are out of the job, man, who asks about you? Nobody. They don't care.
They don't care.
So we think people, nothing's going to work without us. When even my staff, when they say to me, no, nobody's a good teacher than you. And I said, that is where you go wrong first.
Yes.
I say directly to the principal, I go, that is the most biggest deception. I go, this concept that this person is here and that's why everything is going to go good. No, I am easily replaceable, and you should have a replaceable person always with you, always prepared. So if this person is not there, this person can stand in. This is the biggest deception, that without this person, nothing can work.
Yes.
This is हम अपने बारे में भी सोचते हैं. Then we think about others as well.
Yes. लोगों के बारे में भी सोचते हैं और अपने बारे में.
ऐसे.
हम बिल्कुल जो है ना, we are replaceable.
ऐसा
नहीं होता.
And सबसे बड़ी बात, irreplaceable. This concept that we think that we are irreplaceable, or one place is irreplaceable, or one institution is irreplaceable. In the next verse, kullu nafsin zaikatul maut. Every soul, zaikatu, will taste al-maut, death. What happens? If they stayed in Makkah, just thinking that, where are we going to go? Or how can I leave my family? How can I leave this place, my birthplace? Even if they didn't leave it then, one day, ultimately, they were going to go. You have to leave it, whether you like it or not.
The tribal culture, Makkah, it was a tribal culture, and getting out of the tribe was very, very difficult. They thought that यहाँ से निकलने का मतलब है मौत, लेकिन you will get to mauत
anywhere. It's mentioned when in the life in Medina, when people would worry about going to jihad. So the verses came that even if you were in huge castles to fortify yourself from getting killed, if maut was going to come, it would come to you. If the Malakul Maut was going to come and get you, it would come and take you wherever. So this thought that a person is irreplaceable, or the job that I'm working for, I can't get anything better than this, Allah's land and Allah's opportunities. Well, because the reason is what we think with our own capabilities, we think with our skills, or our own resources, the thing that we think that we are,
We are narrow-minded.
Yes. Whereas Allah, if we think and if we live for Allah, these decisions become even more easier. That everything I do it for you. And who is that you? Allah. Whereas commonly in the materialistic world, everything I do, I'm doing it for my boss. Everything I do, I'm doing it for my work. Everything I do, I'm doing it for my studies. Everything I do, I'm doing it for my husband. Everything I'm doing for my children. I mean,
I don't know, as women, I don't know. I mean, as I don't know about males, but as females, हम दूसरों के लिए करते हैं.
Ma'am, you're talking about our generation. Ma'am, you're talking about our generation. Step a few generations forward. Everybody is concerned with their own selves, right? That is gone. This concept of,
even for the kids,
kids
को भी वो कहते हैं हमारा comfort और हमारा style और हमारी उसमें disturbance ना हो.
Their own kids. You've given birth to a child. आप अपने बच्चे से तंग हो. That is what is happening nowadays. And then the house of Ankabut, Bayt Al Ankabut. I was listening to another tafsir the other day, in which I mentioned her. The spider, the female spider, once they mate, she kills the spouse, and she uses the nutritions from killing him and eating him to consume for having those eggs. And then when the mother has given, raised so many, the eggs have hatched, then collectively the kids kill the mother for their energies and their, I was shocked. Because when I was listening to her, I don't believe everything. And then I Googled it. Then I went to different places. And I was all like, oh my God, really? And Bayt Al Ankabut today, that was, Allah was saying like false gods. It was like those people who rely on others. The Bayt Al Ankabut today, the homes, the houses that we are building, Gen Z or Gen whatever, A, B, C, D, whatever, our building is which they are, dodgy homes.
Yes.
The home is not, a fixed unit in which everybody is safe. First, a home was something where everybody is safe. Now the home is literally built on a spider's web, could break any time. The wife is against the husband is against the wife, no compromise. The kids, they don't want kids first, and when they do have kids, then they're fed up with the kids. And then, because you're fed up with the kids right in the beginning, so when the kids grow older, they're fed up with you. And then then old homes, old homes have inculcated into the Muslim society also. So like I was thinking that, the homes, the Bayt Al Ankabut, this is our homes now. Today, the Muslim homes are becoming these homes. It has a very deep, we're just taking one view that, okay, falsehood and, those who believe in Allah and those who believe in falsehood. But if we look at the Bayt Al Ankabut, it is our society nowadays. It's very alarming. So every soul, whether you leave something or not, every soul has to taste death. Today, yes, it seems very difficult to leave your friend, the one that is bringing you down. It feels very difficult to leave that job, the one that is paying you good, pay. You're getting a good paycheck. But what? It's decreasing your iman. You can't pray on time. They don't allow you to do the hijab. There's so many things. It could be anything. Sometimes, the relationship that you're doing, toxic relationships. Nowadays, first it would be just a husband and wife. Now people are in relationships before marriage. And the biggest thing that you could leave for the sake of Allah would be that relationship that you are in, that illicit relationship that you are in, that you should not be, for the sake of Allah. First of all, that should be gone. And if you think it's the matter of the heart and you can't leave that illegal relationship, then at least try to legalize it. At least try to legalize it. You can't leave that illegal relationship, then what should be your first thing? Try and legalize it. Why? Because if the relationship is true, if the heart, the boy and the girl's hearts are so inclined to each other and they're so loyal to each other, then once the issue of legalizing a relationship comes up, then instantly the boy and the girl will totally agree that, okay, let's talk to the parents. And if you can't tell your parents about a relationship that you think you are in love, then there is no such thing. Because the first thing that, when you think something is really dear to you, the first person who are you going to tell? Your parents. The boy, the girl will first tell their parents, and then for the sake of Allah, trying to legalize that marriage. Because I remember the Prophet ﷺ, there were so many times that companions would come that we want to marry so-and-so. The Prophet would never say why. He would ask, how much meher can you give? And then they would say, we can give this much. And then the Prophet would ask the girl's parents, why would this person say that I want to marry? Because he had some liking, maybe seen her somewhere. No big deal. Legal. To legalize it. This is the biggest, the thing that is bringing our society down today is these illegal relationships that are happening from now, like school, sixth grade. First we used to be worried about O levels, like 9th, 10th and 11th grade.
No.
Now when somebody says to me 6th grade, 5th grade, I'm going, for God's sake. This used to happen in England, like 10-year-olds and 11-year-olds. And the other day there was a debate online in which they were talking about Iran allows the marriageable age of 8. And then I commented at the bottom and I said, why does it legalize it? Why? To save a person from an illegal relationship. We all know that in the West, and so many people, maybe in Pakistan, over there it's exposed, over here maybe hidden. We all know that 8 to 9-year-olds are indulging in sexual activities in the West. I don't know, even in Pakistan, I don't know about that. But to legalize, if you cannot control your desire, then to legalize that, that's why they have allowed. They're not forcing you to get married at that age. They have legalized the marriage. It's illegal there, but then they're doing everything else. So if Islam has legalized something, because it's a natural desire, you cannot compose yourself, you cannot control yourself, okay, then fine, you can get married at this age. So udhar legal nahi hai to marry, but it's illegal to have an illicit relationship. So the hypocrisy, it's hypocrite, what can a person say about it? So, illegitimate children are being born to 9 years old. You will see the net full with information that a girl 10, a girl 12, a girl 9 is raising a child by herself. They don't even know who the father is. And if they could legalize the marriage at that age, then she would be living in a family.
At least she's taken care of.
So what we do is we bring one point as an issue, and we forget to address the main point. The main point is, trying to legalize that sexual desire that you cannot curb. And they just, this is the Iranians and God knows Thailand and God knows where they legalized the marriageable age of 9. And I'm so it's the way people, it's just the way they want you to understand. It's manipulation of the minds. They're trying to manipulate your mind.
फिर उसके बाद everyone start talking about it और उसको अच्छा और बुरे पहलू में देखने को, जबकि जो ओरिजिनल चीज है, जो रियल चीज है, उनसे हमारी जो होती है वो हटा देते हैं.
ثم إلينا ترجعون. In other words, if you do not, if you stay in where you are now, one day, maut will take you, death will take you, and then you will return to Allah. Whether you were disobeying, whether you had compromised your values, whether you were living a life of sin, whether your life was a prayerless life, no matter what it was, you didn't decide today, tomorrow, you're turning back. And you're turning back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We'll leave it here. It's 5:30. Any questions? I was supposed to finish the parah today, in fact, but there are some things that need to be just on tika hai. It's okay. Because when you're listening to online on a YouTube channel, then if it gets too long, if it goes longer than 1 hour, then it gets boring. You can't listen to a YouTube channel for such a long time. Okay, the people online will have to log out, and the rest will listen to the tilawat. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdika nashhadu an la ilaha illa anta nastaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu.